I feel like State of the People, it's a brave space, right? So we talked about kind of the difference between like brave spaces and safe spaces. And so again, sometimes like safe space is like a word it's kind of like subjective, and you know, you don't really feel safe. Hi everyone, I'm Kwani and I am the Marketing Manager, Inclusion and Community Strategist at Youth to the People. A year ago in June 2020, the murder of George Floyd really reignited the Black Lives Matter movement, and it also sparked a cultural awareness and coming together around racial and social justice. Sharon Shooter, who is the founder of Uma Beauty, she started the Pull-Up Challenge, in which she challenged all brands and corporations to pull up and show their numbers, including the diversity of their team. I think with Youth to the People, this definitely was something that we wanted to take on, and not just be performative, but we also wanted to really do the work. And so this is where we have come in the last year. Today, I am here with some very important people here at Youth to the People, our founders and head of people and culture.
Hey, I'm Jamie, head of people and culture here at Youth to the People.
Hey, I'm Joe. I'm the co-founder of Youth to the People.
Hey, what's up everybody? I'm Greg, the other co-founder of Youth to the People.
Well, it has been a year. It's been a really challenging year. Greg, 1 year ago, when I approached you, again, the murder of George Floyd, Black people were really hurting, and I'd love to know like what were your thoughts when during that time a year ago.
Yeah, well, I think when we started Youth to the People, we started so tiny, and we are a true indie brand, and when you start that way, you're powered by your community, and you build a really close relationship with them, a meaningful relationship, and so when something in the world, in our country happens like that, and people are hurting, and your friends are hurting, and their family members are hurting, you feel it.
Yeah.
You do really feel it.
How important, was it for you all to think about how you were going to respond, not only to the, the Black people on the team, but then also, again, the people in the community?
Goodness, I think it was tough, right? It was really tough. We all talked about it quite a bit, and I think what was kind of heartbreaking is internally we weren't doing well. So while we were putting our message out to the community, we had to get a lot of buy-in and trust within our own team. So I think that was pretty tough. Like, Greg, you guys want to talk about the first post and how difficult it was to make that? It wasn't a difficult decision like from our hearts, but like as business owners, like you want to talk about how we went about making the statement?
Yeah, it was something that we talked about as a team, Greg and I of course, but as with everyone on the team, and I think it was not only the conversations we were having internally and how we were feeling and wanting to support the entire team and then our community first and foremost, and then second, like what are we going to say as a brand and as a company, and I think when situations happen where we know we are feeling it and we're talking about it internally, sometimes we're not always like, oh, we have to post too. It's more of like first and foremost, what's our family doing? How's our team doing? How's our community doing? So, but we always have those conversations of, yeah, we're going to post or we're going to talk about it. So what are we going to say? And what do we believe in? Because we want to, whatever we do say, we want to be able to stand behind and back up and be accountable for our words.
Yeah, tell me a little bit more about like that sense of urgency and how to balance the sense of urgency with the work that we're doing, the conversations that we're having behind the scenes with our community, checking in with each other, but like having this platform.
it's there is a sense of urgency because everything moves so fast these days, especially in the world of social. And it's important to us to, for our community, first and foremost, they are looking to us of what are we going,
Sure.
what are our beliefs, where do our values stand up for? We said things at certain times, or these brand pillars are listed on our website, but are we really going to stand up and say something and have an impact and hopefully make a difference? And so the timing is important, because if you sort of waver on your beliefs, that'll come through. It shows out in the timing and what you say within your community and on your social posts, I should say.
I would say though we will take the time, take the
Yes.
time to have
Sure.
take the time to have the conversations, with our team members, and really craft something that is something we feel we can stand by. And it's tough because you really feel like the clock is ticking, and you want to respond and get out with something so that the community feels that they're being supported. But you kind of have to stop and pause yourself and just be like, it's okay for one more day. It's okay for 2 days. It's okay because we're going to put this up there and then it's going to be there. So in the end, it's better to take a little bit more time. But it's definitely something that you really feel.
Yeah. I want to keep that going, because I think that's actually a really, I think for me, that's one of the things that I appreciate now that I am on, this side of the company as an employee versus being a creator, is that we really do take the time internally to, again, make sure that internally, the team members are good, but then also, we never want to be reactive to everything that's going on. And so I think this past year we've really done a great job at kind of continuously letting the community know that we care. And so it's never about rushing to make a post or rushing to make a statement. It's really about taking the time to think about what's going to make the most impact. But then also too, at the end of the day, everyone just wants to be seen, heard, and valued and appreciated. And, one of our core values is that, is that we care. We give a damn. We give a damn. So, that's something that's always on for us. And, even if we don't make a post, we're reaching out to people individually. You all called me, again, when I was a creator, and I was hurting, it was a lot for me. And so, for you all to just take the time to reach out to me on an individual level, that just went so far with me. And I know that other members of the community feel that as well.
Yeah, that's such a good point. I think one of the things we think about it as a team now, as events happen in the world and around us, if there isn't something that we aren't speaking of, people really, it's about checking in. Checking in. How are you? Like, what's going on? How, have a conversation, because that's what starts that journey of really learning and having true empathy of what is happening. So that's so critical as well.
Speaking of empathy, as a Black woman, I know that in the quest for anti-racism, we talk about wanting our allies to have empathy for us and not necessarily pity us. And I'd love to kind of just know, what has that journey been of having empathy and really trying to put yourselves in a place where you can, try to understand how and what we're going through.
Yeah, like Kwani and I talked about this a little bit earlier on our car ride. I don't think I had a choice but to be in the color and of my skin and in the life that I've led. So I think empathy, when you are a person of color, it comes really naturally. So even being like very white adjacent, being like an Asian person, I started to learn more about the myth of model minorities and my own privilege. But I would have to admit that it just is a bit more natural because of my skin color. But I imagine, Greg, you're white passing, you're half Mexican, maybe tell us a little bit about that when it all unfolded for you.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think the reality of it, you know, being half Mexican, it's still, I'm completely white facing, right? So like, I don't, when I walk down the street, there's no judgment. When you have white privilege, you have to understand that, and you have to, and if you don't, you need to speak with hopefully people in your lives that will, you know, wake you up to that and let you realize like what that's like to live with and what it's like to not have, and how deep the layers go in it.
Yeah.
And that's a process.
Right.
You know, and you got to take yourself out of it. It's like, I think, you know, you said this before, but if you feel defensive, if you feel something and someone's saying something to you, like, you need to figure out why. There's something in there. Like, if you like feel like you know, and so I think listening to yourself.
Maybe that's the core, right? Like, if empathy is like, I think I talked to the team and I said, hey, if you're starting to feel your muscles react when someone says something you don't like, you start feeling maybe your neck tightens or your shoulders tighten, like, what is that? Like, check yourself, because that other person's probably not feeling that. So maybe that's the core of empathy, is understanding what rises for you.
Yeah, I mean, and the kind of a way we approached it, Joe, I mean, is we started just having, you know, in our weekly meetings with our team, we just put it out there, and for us as founders and every member of the team, right? It was we got into some uncomfortable combos.
Definitely, but important ones, and learning conversations. And I think we can look even prior to George Floyd's murder, the prior year, where conversations had happened through different pieces of the business, through things that we were doing, stories we were sharing, the things we were passionate about, standing up for what we believed in, but not totally maybe living it behind the scenes. And it wasn't intentional, but it was just the reality of having a business and growing it quickly. But in our privilege, some of those conversations happened, we felt a little like that tension, and we're like, wait a second, why? And even growing up with a very, a family that really embraced diversity and really embraced the values of all cultures and that we learned about, we still had this like very much that reaction initially, and we had to like learn about that. And even past George Floyd murder, we still had to have these conversations, and they were tough. I mean, we had some all team meetings that were on Zoom. We're in a pandemic. We can't see everyone in person. Everyone's hurting. And the questions were tough, but it also made us think and take a look in the mirror and go, okay, now we've made these statements. We've made these statements in the past, and we are supporting these organizations that are doing the right thing, but are we really living that? And I think we've figured out why, gone through a lot of different workshops and trainings and educations, which we'll talk about, but it's also helped us to, I think, for the future to make a lot of change.
I think I want us to lean a little bit more into those uncomfortable conversations.
Yeah.
Because I think that was a moment of breakthrough for the brand. Speaking for myself, you know, Youth to the People has always, you know, sparked optimism, hope, youthfulness, joy. Like, those are the things that I think about when I think of Youth to the People. And so, you know, there was a point where it's like we had to get real. Like, we couldn't gloss over the realities of racial injustice. And I guess, you know, I'd kind of like to talk about just what was it like internally to really kind of check yourself and say, you know, am I really an ally, and am I really doing the work that people think I'm doing? You know, like, am I doing the work? Like, what was that like internally for you all as founders and as, you know, white passing individuals?
I think it all started with, again, talking with the team, but opening up questions from the team that were anonymous to really get into it. And I think that was it was tough because the questions would come in up to a week out, and we would see them and go. But it gives you time to really reflect and think through, like, this is each person's experience, and we need to listen and embrace this and go about how we can affect change. But it was hard, and yeah, and you're like, wait, I'm doing all these good things. We're growing a business. Everyone's has a job, and we're got all these opportunities. We're in a pandemic.
Right.
We kept our entire team. Like, so if you do initially, just like when you feel that, you're like, oh wait, what? But then it's each time you go through these difficult situations, you realize, like, this is nothing. This is our privilege. The fact that that's the biggest, like, the hardship is just shows, like, what the privilege was. And I think that for me has been one of the really turning points for how I address difficult conversations or go into them and feel with them.
Yeah. So let's talk representation, right? I think that's kind of the culmination of all of this work is meant to improve representation, but to improve it authentically. So I think the responsibility of that representation for me that, like, I really wanted to focus on was the representation of the team itself.
Mm-hmm.
So what was that process of, after we showed our numbers and, I want to, make sure that we include, after we showed our numbers, the culmination of our D&I leadership team of Janine, Kristen, and Lauren, and just what was that process like of making sure that we showed the numbers that we had, and then how we worked to improve that.
Yeah, I mean, that the responsibility of the company, that's the most important thing. I mean, even myself as, like, overlooking creative, you think about how important it is to have representation in your models and the people that work on our shoots and our campaigns, but that's just part of it. Where the work needs to be done and where the responsibility lies is the diversity of the team, and not only the overall numbers, but where does the diversity sit within each area of the company.
Yes.
And so that was the part of really looking in the mirror and saying, we need the right representation and true diversity in marketing. We need it in social. We need it in product dev. Anything that we need it in our shoots. And how can we be better?
And we need it in, we need it in positions of leadership.
Positions of leadership. And so that's where you start to look at, okay, this is going to take work. This is process, time, it's step by step. This is how we can start to make changes tomorrow. This is how we can do it in a month. This is what we can do in 6 months. And the beautiful thing, though, about when you get diversity in the right places of a company is the work is so much better. When you have true perspective coming together around a table to create something, the creative is so much better. The decisions are much more clear and fast, and the work that you can put out to the world is that much more beautiful. And so that's been the most incredible part of starting to see the changes that we've made internally and the meetings that we have. That's one of the most powerful things that I've been able to witness as a leader with this company.
I'd like to talk about the representation on the team, and one thing that I definitely want a personal story. Seeing we've done some great progress in adding to the diversity of the team, but I think what I feel like most good about is seeing the internal promotion of Black women on our team. Speaking for myself, seeing Kristen be promoted to leadership, as a person of color, that was it was like a huge moment amongst like some of the members of the team, like we celebrated it like it was like the Grammys, like, you know what I mean? Like we were all on Zoom, and it was a moment. Like we cried we were happy, we were excited, like it was really emotional. But it for me, like it gave me hope, because I think a lot of brands were scrambling just to add diversity to the team. But again, I've always preached that, like, or I've always said that we need representation in positions of leadership, but in positions of influence. And so having that representation in marketing and PD, social, like that perspective is what, again, like that drives the agenda of inclusivity. And so I'm really happy, like, that you two, and along with Jamie, like, and you all took the time to really make sure that we promote it internally, and that we really focus on, not only the recruitment but the retention and the promotion of employees of color.
Every promotion at Youth to the People is so special because it's a journey and it's growing. It means the company's accelerating and we're hitting all of our goals. But the promotion internally, it just means the world and what's been really great with some of our promotions too, is they've been from different areas of the company, to where I think it's that same thing of like giving people that opportunity because they've shown it.
One of the things that we hit on was that there was a lot to learn.
Yeah.
It was a lot to learn, right? So I think when we started, America, as many people say, America is a melting pot. And so, there's always a great respect and appreciation for mixed culture, for mixed races. But I think, that's one side of what diversity is. And so it's really important. It was really important for the team collectively as a whole that we made sure that we started to shift the pendulum of what representation meant. And so, not having, when you have like racial ambiguity that's projected on social, that can project that it projects that it's the erasure of culture, right? And so, if we're gonna have Asian representation, like we need to make sure that we go all the way, into what that representation looks like. We know that like South Asia, that representation, we know that their skin tones are almost as deep as mine. And so I think that we all, again, collectively, we learned, that it was important to celebrate, again, the full spectrum of representation in our models, but also keeping in mind that, our models for casting, it's only one piece of the representation that we try to ensure we have within the community.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the most important things to us on our campaigns or when we launch a product, is the community that we feature and work with, and that's such a big part of it, and that makes up kind of everyone that's part of that shoot or that campaign. But there was so much to unravel on that, on people that were mixed that we were featuring versus really diving into making sure that representation was there. When people saw the people we were featuring, they saw themselves in that. To us that's so important. Like, we talk a lot about how honored we are that people choose to buy Youth to the People and bring it into their homes, and it's in their bathroom. There's so much trust that's built with when you make and manufacture a product that people literally apply on their skin, right? That is a personal relationship every day, every morning, and every night. And so it's an honor to us. But there again, back to that word, it's a responsibility that you can see yourself when you think about our brand and when you pick up our cleanser.
For me, it's important, like, inclusion is not just about race too. So like with our casting, like, I really appreciate that, we look for, representation across age. We look for representation across identity. It's really important that we feature, individuals who are not cisgender, heteronormative. So just making sure that we're pushing those, those boundaries. And again, like, it's not about just seeing like your outer, your external shell, but like how people identify within as well. So I think it's really great that we take that into account, not only with our casting, but also our community.
Yeah. And I think when we talk about inclusion, it's work. And Kwani, you and I talk about this a lot. How do we keep going? It has to be iterative. It has to be repetition. So talk to us a little bit more about the repetition.
Yeah, I think we did a lot of D&I trainings and workshops, internal conversations, but we know that it doesn't stop there. Like that's just like it's not the bare minimum, but it's like that's like the starting point. And I really want to highlight our D&I leaders, Janine, Kristen, and Lauren, because our D&I meetings, that really allows us to continue the work. Because one thing too that feels authentic is like it's important that we have the external education, consulting, etc. But it's important that internally that we take that responsibility to take the work that we got externally and then apply it internally and apply it continuously. So I think I think our D&I meetings, I mean, that's really kind of it's a pillar. It's a pillar of keeping ourselves accountable and making sure that we're continuing to drive those conversations around inclusion, representation, visibility, and beyond. Yeah.
I love that you said conversation, because I think at the minimum, we're able to talk about this. We're talking today. We're talking to the public. We talk about it in the workplace.
Right.
And I mean, not to out Joe and I's age, but when we grew up, you never talked about this at work. You just kind of climbed the corporate ladder and you put your head down and just grinded it out. And so what I'm super proud of with us is that we are creating these spaces for our team. We may not do it right, and we're going to stumble, but we care. We truly, truly care, and we want to just keep advancing this agenda of inclusion. Just proud to be able to do it with you all.
Yeah, and that representation, it's again, it starts with the internal team, and then it branches out again, not only in our casting but our community. We have a wonderful ecosystem that we like to call it. That's it consists of our our OG insiders, our skinsiders, our writers, our artists, our musicians, change makers, like those who are making a difference in the community. Like I feel really good about the representation of like our community as a whole, and that that branches out to having our editorial. I really want to highlight Alyssa and Mena and the work that they've done. Our writers, we're talking about topics that maybe other people might feel like it's too sensitive, and we're pushing that. A few weeks ago we had a wonderful editorial piece on around the murders of Indigenous women and girls, and so I thought that was very important. And in the same token, we're having conversations around mental health, and we're having conversations around working moms and how working disproportionately affects working moms of color. And so I think that like it's important, like we're hitting it on all sides, right? Like we want to make sure we have the representation on social. We want to make sure we have that representation on the team. We want to make sure we're having it in our community, our writers, our partners, our community and organizational partners. So, it really is a multi-pronged approach.
Absolutely.
And, we're really in it for the long haul.
Yeah, I mean, and all the way back to, the dream of Youth of the People was an inspiration of people that, wanted to create change, and realizing that that curiosity, that youthful energy, that dream to be better tomorrow than you were today is sparked by community. And to be able to amplify that on the level that we do, and that small level getting a little bit bigger every year, and like honestly, you know, having a team that genuinely cares like about what we value, you know,
Right.
like that, and hopefully we can continue to cultivate a company culture where they can come to us and say how we can be better, and they care about this. You know, I always think back to Teresa from the creative team having a conversation with us before
Any of this.
any of this happened, and it's one of the best conversations we've that ever came up. And how do we, through the work that we do, weekly at State of the People, which is our weekly team meeting, how do we keep cultivating a place where people feel comfortable sharing what's on their mind, and giving them the right lanes to do that.
I think that speaks to, something that Jamie, you said. I feel like State of the People, it's a brave space, right? So we talked about kind of the difference between like brave spaces and safe spaces. And so again, sometimes like, safe space is like a word it's kind of like subjective, and you don't really feel safe, and I think again, things like State of the People, but then also having the empathy, and you all opening up, like that allows for those brave conversations to continue to take place. So
Yeah.
So what's next, right? Like what's next? It hasn't just been a year. It's been multiple years in the making, and we I would just say maybe last year was maybe a catalyst. But this has been multiple years in the making. But right now, today, what's next for us? What's next for the team?
We have a lot of people that we're trying to hire right now. A lot of open positions. Those of you out there,
We are hiring.
but just continually pushing ourselves to continue to look at these uncomfortable positions that we may feel and be okay with that, accept it, and learn from those and push forward, and hopefully embrace those situations with our team internally and externally. Continue the training that we brought in, the external partners that we had that have trained us on D&I, that have trained us on just many different things, and continue with that training, bringing in new partners and learning. And our goals at Youth of the People, beyond the success of the company, is the success of each team member. And a lot of the people at this organization will be at different companies in the future, and that hopefully they will take part of what they learned at Youth of the People and part of what they've learned from this world, and apply that to this new organization where they're a leader at. They will be the next leaders within our industry, within beauty, and probably in other industries too. And I think that's what's so important about this time in our lives, and for every organization right now, that not only are the changes they're doing and the work they're doing isn't important for this day, this moment now, but for the future. And that's really where the change will happen, and the change that I think that we all want to see happen.
I always want us to keep it top of mind, and so I think that's one of the things that like I wanted to bring when I came here, and I just want to like say thank you for kind of like allowing me to have that kind of hybrid position, because it was something that was really important to me, to help drive like all of the great things that the team was doing already. So, but I also want to give a larger shout out to our diversity and inclusion leadership team. So that is comprised of you three, Greg, Jamie, and Joe, and then again our D&I leaders, Kristen, Lauren, and Janine. And I'm just rounding out the great team. But I also will say too, just because of the relationships that I had with the team members from a creator standpoint, I really want to shout out the team. Whenever I'm being emotional and speaking about y'all, like I say, it's the squad, and like I feel like we're really like we're in this together. Like we really got each other's back. It isn't always perfect, but it's like authentic, and like we're in the fold, like we're in the fight together, we're in the struggle together, and we're in the celebration together. And so this team is like we're really doing some really great things, and I feel like I feel lucky, like I feel really lucky to be a part of the team. And so I always want to keep that top of mind too, like we have a really great team,